Good afternoon, Vineet. How are you?
Very good.
Excellent, Vineet. Yeah. Vineet, good to have you again in our COVID-19 special value series. Last week, we had an excellent thought-provoking discussion on impact investing. And I think a lot of people, a lot of participants really appreciated your thoughts and insights into the topic. Today, our topic of discussion is reviving microfinance and agri-entrepreneurship engine for the economic recovery. So, we have this special show every day with subject matter experts from the financial world. Perhaps this is our way of showing solidarity in the fight against COVID. And thank you very much for joining us once again. I also take this opportunity. Yeah, thank you. I also take this opportunity to welcome all participants here, as well as from other social media channels. As you know, Vineet Rai is the chairman of the Avishkar Group, which is focused on delivering high quality impact and returns sustainably. He's also the founder of IntelliCap. Forbes in one of the articles called him a forester to a financier, which is an amazing transformation of a man who loved forest, but as fate would have it, took him to a financial sector. Today, he's best suited to talk about microfinancing and the agri-entrepreneurship we are talking about. So, Vineet, welcome again. And there has been a lot of talk on the Prime Minister's boost to revive the economy. And so, and we feel that most of the financial boost that will come will go to agriculture, rural, and perhaps small businesses and other things. What's your thoughts?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, KK, again.
Sure. Well,
I think the Prime Minister's speech was quite inspiring. I am not so confident when the capital that would follow would be of the same quantum. 20 lakh crore is a very large number, very impressive to say the least, but I think half of that has already, in some way or sense, is in front of us. So, so when you're talking about 10 lakh crores, I have personally believed that government's money normally doesn't create real value. Of course, it actually, unless it goes into the hands of the people who actually need it. Government normally tries not to give it in the hand of the people because somewhere it doesn't probably trust them to spend it. So the other way that I think government can play a fairly important role, which probably we might hear at 4 o'clock, and which is a guess that all of us are making, that I think there is a significant understanding that the government has got now that it's not about liquidity, it's not about cash, it is actually a sentiment problem that we are facing right now. And the sentiment is that people don't want to spend their cash, whether the bankers don't want to lend, borrowers don't want to borrow because they don't know what to do with it. And under the circumstances, the only way to make people spend is to bring the confidence back. And the confidence can only come back if there is some sort of a sovereign guarantee. That guarantee can only come, and that's actually a very cheap way of doing it, because what you have done is you are actually putting forth a potential loss. You're guaranteeing a potential loss. And in certain cases, that loss may never happen. So in that sense, even though the stimulus may say a 3 lakh crore guarantee fund for first 20% first loss default for micro, small, medium enterprise, farmers, etc., the assumption is that you are taking away the fear from the minds of the bankers and the lenders, and you're allowing them to go ahead and do what they would not do otherwise. In the long sale, it may actually not be, maybe 10, 50, 20% might be used. Out of the 3 lakh crore, you may end up spending only 30,000 crores because you understand and you expect that borrower who's borrowing wants to repay back. Other financial sector itself will come to a stall. Any amount of guaranteeing will not work. So my first assumption is that a large part of the package of stimulus, which is actually a good thing, is a financial engineering which is required because sentiments have taken a significant beating, and that will come forward. I think the more important thing, and I think most of the commentators have also been focusing on, is it's unfortunate though that we are using a very large and very painful challenge to reset our developmental and / reform activities. Could have been done in good times, but I think in the good times, nobody ever believed that you can drive from my house in Kandivale to Marine Drives in 15 minutes. Today, the government can actually dig up all the roads and re-repair them without anybody actually complaining. I don't think so anybody in Mumbai ever thought this is possible, or anywhere in the world for that matter. So
we'll see.
Because the highways are clear, so the Prime Minister is probably putting on the accelerator and trying to drive fast. I think courage and conviction along with imagination is needed for things to move forward. I think the Prime Minister's speech was high on courage, high on conviction. I think we still have a lot to see, and I think this government has normally been challenged not on the big vision, but on the small execution. It would not be very amiss to go back to the income tax brackets that were introduced last time to actually say kathni or karni mein aapka kya gap hai. So the vision is great. The outcome is actually not necessarily designed or matching up to the vision. And I think that's really what I am actually waiting for and looking forward to, whether the grand vision that was painted by the Prime Minister is actually followed through in the mechanics of delivery.
Yeah, we'll see the next 1 hour, I think. So, coming back to, so thanks, Vineet. We just wanted to hear your thoughts because you're so much involved in the rural side. I just want to set the context of today's theme. And to do that, Vineet, if you can give very briefly, what's microfinancing and what is agripreneurship? I mean, what is it so that the participants can get into the topic as we move on?
Okay. So I think microfinance has two words, micro and finance. The general logic of financing world is that the larger the finance, the easier it is. So let's say if you want to lend to Reliance, it's easier to lend to Reliance because credibility, guarantee, large cash flows, credible entrepreneur, long track record. And therefore, the banks will compete with each other to lend to a Reliance. The cost of therefore borrowing for a Reliance is going to be very low. Anyways, the whole global banking industry is known as the banker is the person with standing with the umbrella, hands over the umbrella to you and takes it back the moment it starts raining. So when the sun is shining, they will hand over the umbrella to you. And the moment the first drop of rain will come, they'll say, get back, give my umbrella back. I don't want it to get wet. So to those who actually need the money, especially those who are poor, who are marginalized and who are not part of the society, the bankers said this is a completely wasteful area to give money to. And the argument was very simple. A poor person who does not have stable cash flows cannot be given money and collected back because the cost of giving money and collecting is so prohibitively high that the banks will never engage with them. Now, this actually left almost 50%, 70%, maybe 80% of the world's population outside the door of financing, which means only a few people could get richer and nobody in the world wanted that kind of things to continue. So there were various experiments that were going on of how do you actually bring the poor into the financial mainstream. And one experiment took place in Bangladesh where Professor Yunus, who came up with this idea of social collateral. Now, the interesting part here is that when you go to a bank, they ask for your house, they ask for your car, they ask for your motorcycle as a guarantee. But somebody who doesn't have any physical asset to offer, how would you actually take a guarantee from them? And this new idea was that there will be 5 people who are not related to each other, but know each other, will stand guarantee to each other as a group. So you will form 5 people who are not related to each other to come together. Each one of us, probably a neighbor or in the same society, know each other, and they will only be women. So this was the idea. And he actually said these women will stand guarantee, but the loan will be given to an individual. So the loan is not to the group. The loan is to the individual.
Yeah.
So you are effectively creating a track record of an individual borrowing backed by a guarantee given by the group in very small amounts of capital. So 5,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees, and an entire process to be followed, which essentially means a group will be formed, a group recognition test will be done. Post that, there will be a financial literacy test. Post that, they will be asked, the 5 women together will be asked which amongst you require the capital. Then they will decide who has the highest priority. That woman will, in her own capability, explain her business plan, and the women will then approve and say, hey, this person requires 5,000 rupees. 4 of us are willing to stand guarantee. Please give her the money. The catch was that if this woman refuses or does not pay her EMI on time, then the remaining 4 women not only will have to pay that, and if they don't pay, then none of the 5 women will get a next loan. That's really how the idea of microfinance was created. Now, Nobel laureate Professor Yunus was given a Nobel Peace Prize for this discovery of what you call social collateral. Poor is bankable, maybe $1 trillion idea. That statement that Professor Yunus made, he started his work in 1974, and now it's actually quite famous worldwide, could be $1 trillion idea in itself. So that's the power of idea. He said poor is bankable. He proved it is bankable. I started dealing with microfinance as late as 2001. My engagement with microfinance was interesting. I found this very strange that you give an individual loan, gets a group guarantee, money comes back. Repayment rates are as high, and in those times they used to be 100%. And then there was a professor from Harvard who actually said, Vineet, it's not possible. Actually, he was from MIT. He said, this is not possible. Indian origin guy, considered to be a genius, Senthil Mulainathan, and he was actually doing studies on microfinance, and I met him, and he told me that I just find the idea that nobody defaults as a very stupid idea. And then we actually studied, and we realized that because of the group guarantee, actually the default happens, but it is not reported or recorded. So the default happens, it's just that we don't know the default. And as technology has come in, what we have realized is there is a very large amount of things that happen. Loan sizes have increased, people have become more professionalized, there is a far better understanding of risks and rewards. In 2010, we saw a fairly large microfinance crisis that happened because there was a general belief, and I have a paper that I wrote, which is published by Harvard Business Review, that this is not really about money, it is about politics of the poor. Microfinance allows a microfinance institution to have direct contact on a weekly basis with poor people, which are in millions in number. You have the ability to switch votes. You can actually influence outcomes, and you can become a politician yourself. So therefore, when microfinance became that powerful, politicians did get wary. And at some point of time, microfinance in 2010 was called as blood on its hand because some people committed suicide. There is a lot of research available which actually says that very limited correlation can be found between a loan instance and a suicide. There are many things that go behind a person committing suicide. Loan could be potentially, in some very unique cases, be significant challenge, but not necessarily in most cases. It could be psychological, it could be many other issues that are playing, but a direct correlation just with the loan is highly unlikely. And it was, so post 2010, which was a massive crisis, microfinance and microfinance women demonstrated exceptional resilience. Then they faced demonetization, which was another exceptional crisis where money actually vanished, but the women continued to pay back. And I think on the shoulders of these very poor and very proud, slender women, we have actually built a $45 billion industry just in India. $45 billion. When I started interacting with microfinance, it was just 100 crores, 15 million.
Fantastic. So what does agripreneurship mean?
Yeah, so agripreneurship, I think, is actually people trying to come up with an innovative name to mix agriculture and entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship, okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, please ask.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of put the context to our subject so that participants who are not aware of what is microfinance and what is agripreneurship, they get an idea, and then they can dwell more in the topic. So my question to you, Vineet, is: does COVID-19 pose threat to microfinancing and agripreneurship movement in countries like India, developing countries like India?
So there are many different ways to look at the pandemic. The first way to look at the pandemic is that there is a significant structural shift which will happen globally because of the way capital and economics are getting impacted by the idea of the virus. It is not just impacting the physical activity of money moving up and down and the business happening because of lockdown. It is psychologically impacting those who are powerful and control money. To simply put, 6 months down the line, if lockdown opens up, the poor and the common person will actually forget the pandemic. But those who control money, are very small number. Just to give you an idea, I think the global $200 trillion of mainstream capital would have been largely controlled by less than 1% or 1.5% of people. That's the number, that's the total amount of people. So 98% of the people will forget about Corona or COVID once you are allowed to shop them and enjoy themselves and go back to life. But those 1.5% people who have always been driven by the idea that greed is good and that money actually can be made, who control roughly $200 trillion of the global capital, and are trying to take that $200 trillion to $300 trillion, will be coming face to face with the fear of first time in the history of $200 trillion can become 100 trillion. What it does, it psychologically changes the economic architecture and capital allocation thought process. And to me, I think that's really what is going to happen on the global space. Now, this actually is happening where the money is. Now, what does it do? It actually tells you the following: greed is good, as a statement is dead. The second change that is actually very, very classical and very important is money or capital allocation will give much higher weightage to resilience over returns. And the reason resilience is important is simply because if I have $200 trillion, I do not at any cost want it to become 199 trillion. Forget about 100 trillion. The fear of losing what I have is 100 times higher than the 201 trillion. So returns is actually, I'm actually fine losing all returns till the time I continue to hold what I have. So resilience, and this 200 or 400 gram of world global virus, if you put that on weight, probably less than 200 grams, has actually suddenly taken the fear of resilience or fear of reality in the bedrooms and boardrooms of those 1% who control that 200 trillion. What it does, therefore, is now suddenly there is a question of what is the right way to use my capital, because I don't want to lose my capital even if I don't get growth. And in that case, suddenly the allocation changes from greed to resilience. And then the best case scenario is no more return at all cost. The best case scenario is resilience with return. At this point of time, out of fear, I am fine with resilience, just survival. And then the question comes, so what is resilience? And resilience is that we should not have the kind of impact COVID has had on us. So suddenly climate, energy, agriculture, sustainability, health, water, sanitation, hygiene, which were no topic for the 200 trillion, are the core topics for discussion. So what happens today? Let's actually come back to India again, and to your key question. What's happening? What's happening in India now is that at this point of time, poor have no business. They are sitting at home. India is closed down. They have got a moratorium, which was announced by RBI, fairly foresightful in my view. But they have to come back. Now, the interesting part in microfinance is it is probably the shortest cycle to cash business. So a woman in microfinance can actually borrow in the morning and go back and return the money in the evening. That's the cycle. Any business that is a cycle of 24 hours to cash is actually a good business in such times. So even if you lost money, if you provide them capital, they would be able to recycle that capital rapidly. And that, I think, is actually a very interesting position to be in. So microfinance, despite the challenges that everybody will face, has one of the most resilient customers. These customers have been around for decades. They have actually invested because their sweat and blood and tears have created billions of dollars of returns to private equity investors who participated in Bandhan's IPO, Equitas IPO, G1's IPO. These are women whose credibility far surpasses most AAA credit rating agencies, most AAA credit rated corporate promoters. And therefore, I genuinely believe that microfinance, even though impacted in the short run, because it is not because it is secured or unsecured, but because everybody is impacted, has the highest and probably the most potential chance of jumping back to normalcy in the shortest period possible of time. When it comes to agriculture, I'll just give you a very quick example of agriculture. On 30th March or 31st March 2020, Avishkar announced an investment in a company called Argos, which is a grain bank that actually digitizes grain in Samastipur in Bihar in 3 districts. April 19 to April 20, when the whole India was in lockdown, and if you would have asked any businessman as to what is the growth rate, they would have said minus 60, 70, 80 or 90%. Nobody would have told you a positive number, but surely minus 60, 70, 80, 90 or maybe 100% of growth. This company, Argos, actually has delivered an 8x increase in customers and a 300% growth in quantum and monetary terms of its revenue. Now that actually explains to you what is happening in Indian agriculture. One, what has COVID done? The only place that you and I are spending is in eating, not in houses, not in buying real estate, not in buying jewelry, not in buying anything else. We are buying cereals, we are buying fruits and vegetables, we are buying milk. We are trying to survive and we are working out in our own homes. Every discretionary spend is out of the way. Only the essential being spent on. And therefore, agriculture suddenly has found itself to be the center of the universe. Has it been impacted? Everything has been impacted, but it has mostly been impacted because of logistics, not because of demand. It's a problem that is actually a good problem to have and can be solved. Perishables have been impacted more than the cereals. If anything, cereals would have actually a big demand across the globe. And there will be a fairly significant focus on finding newer and better ways of creating value to the farmers so that more people and more investment can happen in farming. So that's really my predictions on both microfinance and agripreneurship or agriculture in India.
Thank you. Thank you. That's, as usual, very insightful, very knowledgeable. So would you say that microfinance institutions have kind of weathered the storm with COVID, or there could be some impact later on?
Yeah, no. I think the reality is that like any financial we will face a challenge, and the challenge would be there. The challenge in this case is actually an issue of liquidity and equity. Credit rating agencies are actually very hawkish at this point of time on all financial services sector. So if you have the desire to raise equity, you should raise equity. We are hopeful that with the significant amount of liquidity that is available in the system, there will be significant amount of capital available. But it is also actually very clear that the banks and institutions will find it incredibly difficult to lend without having some sort of support and guarantee. So 4 o'clock today would actually be very, very important for even microfinance institutions. Micro, small, medium enterprise lenders, as well as agri-entrepreneurs, lenders to agri-entrepreneurs, as well as to farmers, as to what kind of security and the guarantee that will come along for us. So that I know it is not going to be from back-ended, so it would actually be for loans made from now. In an ideal world, they should have actually tried to guarantee the past, but that would have not fueled anything for the future. So I think the cost of the past will probably go back to the equity holders, but cost for the future at least has been covered by the guarantee, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. Let's see. So like Vineet said, we need to look at 4 o'clock. What are the various steps that the government is taking? So, like usual, we are open for questions for the participants. Yeah, please put your questions in the Q&A, and we will try to get it across to Vineet as quickly as possible. Just to tell you that we will not take this session right up to 4 o'clock, because like 4 o'clock is the time when FM will be, Finance Minister will be on air. So we would like to close it maybe 5-7 minutes before the scheduled close of time. So please send your questions as quickly. Vineet, what steps can we now take to ensure that the industry survives and can contribute eventually to economic recovery?
Okay, can you repeat it? I just missed, didn't hear it.
Sure. So my question to you is Vineet, is that what steps can we take now to ensure the industry survives and can contribute to the eventual economic recovery?
I think we have made certain suggestions, and most of those suggestions were actually accepted by the Reserve Bank of India, and there are some discussions still going on. But I think the first suggestion was that this industry is very resilient. It has come this far, $45 billion without any support from any government, no tax reforms, no rebate, nothing. So this is a self-made, it does not require doles. It does not require any support. Its trust and capability comes from its borrowers and customers. Again, the women who actually we believe are very proud and want to repay back the money that they take. So I think prima facie, it is a very powerful area. Now, the strength what we would like ideally is an unlimited supply of capital to happen, specifically if the government can make sure that capital that it has, the RBI has actually released in thousands of crores, lakhs of crores to the system, is actually reaching out to the microfinance institution. The fact of the matter is the private sector banks has not really participated. The idea behind TLTRO has actually not been super successful. The fact that only half of it was subscribed, and that even those actually has not necessarily reached microfinance institutions. NABARD and SIDBI have been given a significant amount of capital, which has started finding its way to microfinance institution, partly because both NABARD and SIDBI has been associated very closely with microfinance for a very long period of time. So a guarantee would actually help because it would actually encourage microfinance institution to lend. I think the most important thing that the government and RBI could do is to make it literally mandatory or at least encourage people by guarantees or whatever method, or RBI itself directly lending significantly large size to the companies that have the potential and the ability to service microfinance. That's really the first and the most important thing. The microfinance institutions on their own should actually consider providing emergency loans to their own people, because remember, these people normally, while the loan sizes are very large, we are talking about $45 billion sector, but individuals, we are also talking in the same breath 10 crore people. So if you divide 5 billion by 10 crores, become a very small amount of money. That small amount of money may, because of the lockdown and because of the breakage, may have evaporated or may have not evaporated in that sense, but people would have actually had short-term cash flow issues. There should be a small loan should be given to microfinance clients so that they can come back and start their business. As I said, normally a microfinance client can start a business in a day. They can go up to 30 days, but they will be able to return money in a short period of time, and therefore support should be provided to the microfinance client by microfinance institutions. So the government should make sure there is unlimited supply of capital for microfinance, and microfinance institutions should not actually be holding back, but should be providing loans to these women so that they can rebuild their lives in case the lives have been impacted significantly.
Yeah, thank you. So we touched upon microfinance quite a bit, and so I want to talk about agripreneurship in India. So just a simple question to you, going by the definition you said earlier about agri-entrepreneurship. Would you call a farmer an entrepreneur?
So I think entrepreneurship is actually about excelling. If you are a mediocre person, to excel within the limitations. So you have your own limitations and you excel within those limitations. Farmer is an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur who's actually very resource-driven entrepreneur. So you effectively have a land, you grow something on the land, you put your sweat, blood, years into it, and you actually have a very large amount of uncertainty due to the unpredictability of weather, monsoon, etc., which creates all kind of unpredictability, and you are always capital starved. So there are multiple challenges to farmers. The equity is largely the sweat, and when they take a loan, they find it incredibly difficult because there is a cost of input. So today in the world of agri-entrepreneurship, you are actually talking about different kinds of entrepreneurs. Let's just look at the value chain of agriculture. There is a need for something called inputs. So you need seed, fertilizer, etc. Somehow farmer needs it. Let's assume for a minute, farmer is a customer, you are a provider of service. And then we will see farmer as an entrepreneur, as a seller. Farmer as a buyer has a significant amount of input. For an every acre, you will spend anything from 10,000 to 2 lakh rupees, depending on kind of crop you are doing. If you are doing something which is like a millet, it's a crop. It doesn't require rain, doesn't require fertilizer, doesn't require much support. You might actually be spending a very small amount of money per acre. And if you are doing a cash crop like cotton, you might actually be spending a significant amount of money. You need money for seed, fertilizers, micronutrients, etc. And that's what you spend. So you're a buyer, and a lot of people would want to supply. Right now, there is a very multi-layered chain to take money to you, to products to you. And most of these chains are actually not able to service the farmer properly because the gestation period of supply is just before the rains. And so it's like a black t-shirt problem. If everybody in Mumbai wants to buy a black t-shirt, black t-shirts will suddenly become very expensive. Farmer faces the same, because the moment rain comes in, the farmer has to buy everything. And then suddenly, because everybody is buying the same seed, same fertilizer, same micronutrient, it just becomes expensive or not available. Spurious seeds or seeds that do not germinate are actually one of the biggest challenge for the farmers, because there is no guarantee that they will get the right seeds. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are coming up with new ideas and new ways of taking this. So for example, we have invested in a company called AgroStar, which is effectively today the Amazon for farmers. It actually deals with 1.5 million farmers and provides services at their doorsteps or whatever they want. Similarly, I mentioned about there's a company called INI Farms that actually help farmers produce more so that they can sell. They are largely in pomegranates and bananas, but they effectively have built the entire supply chain for selling pomegranates and banana for the farmers. Then another of our company, which is Argos, I mentioned earlier, is actually helping. Once the farmer harvests the crop, where will he keep the crop? You need a high quality warehouse, but the warehouses are 50,000 tons and above. Just imagine a half-acre farmer producing, let's say, 10 quintal of grains. Where will he keep it in a 50,000 ton? So you need to take a warehouse where farmers live. You need to provide services that will allow the farmer to save it, and you need to create value for him. And then there is also mechanization, productivity, investment. Then there is processing. We have a company called Soulful that actually converts farmers' millets into high-end breakfast cereal. As you know very well, today, jowar, bajra, ragi is not something that you and I eat in our staple diet. Especially young kids don't even know what it is. They are used to Kellogg's. Now you have to convert millet into a product that is competing with Kellogg's for you to create a value for the farmer. So all this is agripreneurship. Helping farmers sell requires new entrepreneurs to come in with new ideas, and helping farmers buy and get their products at right price with right quality is also agri-entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so when we're talking about entrepreneurs, and we did talk about impact capital, impact investing last time. So if you were to advise a couple of advices to the entrepreneurs who are raising capital for impact investment, what would be your advice be to them, to the entrepreneurs?
So my first advice is to anybody who is doing whatever you are doing. It doesn't matter whether you're doing impact investing, raising capital for any reason. You have to have a story. That story must actually bring in a new element. How do you operate your business in a post-COVID world? Whether COVID changes your story, do you have an ability to pivot? Do you as an entrepreneur have a vision that says that post-COVID world, this will happen and I will deal with this in this manner? You have to also articulate what is it that you are going to do and how COVID is actually allow you to take your business forward. that really would be the only way you would be able to raise capital. You have to be patient also because everybody is scared, nobody is sure. Most important to all entrepreneurs, I would suggest that you have to also think about killing your greed. Doesn't matter whether you are an impact entrepreneur or a normal entrepreneur. You have to understand that the value of your idea has just gone down significantly and the cost of capital has just gone up.
Yeah.
So if you're expecting a very large valuation, it is unfortunately not available. So try to look at entrepreneurship as not a panacea to make you a billionaire overnight. See it as a path where you will be able to change people's life, an ability to influence because you have an idea, not necessarily a $1 billion earning gateway for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vineet, let's take a question from one of the participants. So one of the participants asked a question, the analogy. So he asked you a question, would microfinance institutions find digital platforms more lucrative than the conservative forms of business?
So microfinance institutions today are actually very, very evolved. In fact, they are very, very advanced. A lot of people probably do not have an idea that even my own microfinance institution, Arohan, is actually on a core banking platform. We actually have a front end that has, we have something called Arohan e-Bazaar, which is effectively a competitor to Amazon. Not of that scale and size, but we have 2.5 million clients of our own. So we sell them products and services that they want. Almost every person who actually walks around in microfinance today carries a POS. So we don't have any paper writing. So Arohan is completely and a large number of microfinance institutions are completely paperless and trying to become completely cashless. In fact, Arohan is completely cashless on the front end. So microfinance institutions are extremely evolved in terms of the kind of technology they use. But there is a lot of technological innovation that is still possible given the size and scale. We're talking about 10 crore people in microfinance. So microfinance institutions have the potential to create, and I actually visualize that 5-7 years down the line, we may actually have only virtual center meetings instead of physical center meetings. Social distancing, etc. My norms might actually push us to go towards that faster than earlier. And it may actually be important. So technology will play a bigger and bigger role as microfinance evolves.
Okay, that's nice. So as you know, we also open our channel for a couple of questions directly from the participants. So may I request Krishna Tripathi to unmute and ask a question?
Hello, Mr. Vineet, can you hear me?
Yep.
Mr. Vineet, I just wanted to ask you one question. Some people say that given the size of stimulus in US and other countries, these economies will be awash with cash. And some cash may find its way to our country, our markets. They will certainly be looking to invest into India. On the other hand, we see that what happened with the RBI's TLTRO and LTROs. A lot of money came back into RBI. That prompted RBI to cut the reverse repo rate to discourage banks from parking money back to the RBI. So where do you see the problem and how we can address this problem? Even if the money is available, people or banks will park it with the RBI again.
Yeah. So I think this is a classical problem. As I said, the problem is not of liquidity or money. The problem is of sentiment, fear. The emotion of fear actually trumps everything. I actually gave this whole idea that those who control money right now are fearful of losing what they have. And Indian banks are part of that thought process. They actually do not know what to do. So what I call it, there is a catch going on between RBI and Indian banking sector. That same catch is going on between the global capital markets as well. People don't know what to do with the money. So the only instinct they have is to run away. They don't know where to run away though. And you are absolutely right. There is the world is awash with capital. But it's like you in a small dinghy in an ocean. There's water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. That's really what is happening with the liquidity world. What will change? It will change in case sovereign guarantees come in, where the government stand up and say, hey guys, you can go ahead and lend. We will protect you for the first 20%. So first class defaults will get introduced 10%, 20%, 30%. whatever that would allow a bank to take the risk of actually doing the lending. So there is nothing else that will change. Fear of the virus is all encompassing. It impacts those who control the money, and therefore, until unless those who control the money don't get out of the fear, they will continue to be very shy.
Can you elaborate on what kind of sovereign guarantee?
Well, I think you will hear from Nirmala Sitharaman. I'm 100% sure there will be actually at least 1 lakh crore to 3 lakh crores of government guarantee that will come in. It will come in as a first loss default guarantee. It would effectively say banks, when you lend to a micro and small enterprise or a microfinance institution, if there is a default, then the first 10% or 20% will be provided, covered by the government. Now, there are always finer points, whether this is a portfolio guarantee or is it an individual deal by deal guarantee, I don't know. So a lot of those things will come up for discussion. So there will, I don't think so, the Chief Minister would actually clarify that. The fine prints will actually be only known later. But I'm 100% sure there is between 1 lakh to 3 lakh crores of a guarantee fund which is being created as SPV.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tripathi, for asking relevant questions. Another question that has come up is on, well, most of these micro businesses are cash driven, as we all know. Do you think cash recyclers will help to disburse and deposit for daily cash lending to microfinance seekers? I think it must be for ATM.
So my personal belief was that once Professor Yunus discovered the social collateral business, microfinance was essentially a cash logistics business. Over a period of time, microfinance has transformed itself from a cash logistics business to actually a financial services business, whereby technology has become more and more. And as I said, even Arohan, our own microfinance institution, is almost cashless on giving the loans and is trying to go cashless on collecting the money. Cash recyclers is a very different business. Microfinance is an extremely complex, process-driven, highly intense business, require very different kinds of skill sets. And it requires a significant ability to envision the future, manage liabilities and assets, and becomes complicated as things scale up. So cash recyclers have very limited role in this.
Okay, all right. So I come back to one of the questions I will ask you, and that is on the due to rural remigration, because people have moved away from metros and cities and towns because of the virus. So what will be the impact on rural economy going forward?
I think in the short run, there would be more labor available in rural economy, which was actually a significant problem in most of the country. However, the big question would be, is the rural economies of migrant providing states, and let's say the largest state that provide migrants is actually Jharkhand, followed by Bihar, UP, West Bengal, Orissa. These are some of the largest pools of migrant capital. Now, when these migrants come back, what could possibly happen? Most of them are skilled folks. They are also probably the smartest folks in those towns. These are skilled and smartest folks. They are coming back. I think what it will do is drive up the demand for business opportunity for these folks in these states, which means microfinance institution and micro and small enterprise lenders would have a large number of new skilled, highly skilled and skilled, very talented folks actually seeking new business opportunities, trying to build small businesses in these areas. I think therefore my contention is that demand for loan is going to blow up in the low income territories of India, especially in rural India, because the rich and the corporates are not going to borrow. So the revival of the Indian economy is largely going to happen by these young folks, small folks borrowing and actually building new kinds of businesses using their skills and offering. And to me, it seems like there will be a great opportunity for the north side south divide, or northeast versus south and west, that divide that India has. I mean, just to give you an example, and I was listening to Mr. Pai, Mohandas Pai, 48,000 is per capita income of Bihar, 65,000 is per capita income of UP, 1,21,000 is of Madhya Pradesh, 1,25,000 of Bengal. And if you go down the west, south, Gujarat is at 250,000. South Indian states, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu would be around 225,000 to 240,000. You are talking about a massive drag coming from these two large states, UP, Bihar, with 45 and 65,000. They have a great opportunity to use this COVID risk as an opportunity to, and especially with microfinance and micro, small, medium enterprise financing, a lot of these smart people who have come back will become strong entrepreneurs who can build the industry. The only reason these two states actually have no real income is because they are very agrarian, and the agrarian population is also actually managing very small amounts of land. So the moment you actually convert this into an opportunity, I think there is a huge potential for these guys to grow up. Of course, for the rich states, there will be a increasing cost of doing business there. But I think they have the capability to deal with the crisis.
Okay. So, Vineet, you also covered, before I go, participants, can you all please send your questions quickly? Because we are, like I said earlier, we're going to close a little early today. So, Vineet, you talked about technology penetration into microfinance. But my question to you is, what is the impact of microfinance on agriculture technology? Is microfinance themselves doing something to increase the technology in agriculture?
So I would actually make it very clear that microfinance has very limited relationship with agriculture. Microfinance, so just so that you know, I understand, microfinance has a repayment track record of above 99%, which means 99.5 times the people who take money return it back. Now, just think about it. If you are a farmer, you take a loan from microfinance institution, you go and buy seeds, then you actually buy a bullock or a cart, or you take a tractor, you plow your land, then you throw those seeds, and then you wait for Bharat, for the gods to open up the heavens so that water comes into your field. Then you hope that there is no olavrishti or anything else. There is no other external implications to happen. There should be no epidemic to actually wipe out your harvest, and that markets of commodities do not crash. Now that just is too many risks that is there in lending to a farmer. So microfinance institutions have found it incredibly difficult to actually cultivate farmers as their primary lenders. So they are lenders, they are lenders to those who actually do farm labor, who have some income flowing from farm, but not necessarily for farming. And therefore, agriculture is a allied industry for microfinance, but not a direct and core industry. So buying a cow, buying a buffalo, buying vegetables and selling vegetables is surely microfinance, but growing vegetable is not microfinance. And therefore, the influence of microfinance on agriculture is very partial, or very, I would say, very incidental.
So would you be open for a, let's say, a fintech collaboration with microfinance companies
there are lots of collaboration. Yeah, there are lots of collaboration that are possible, and everybody is open for it. So I think anybody who has actually ideas to think about how they can create value, they should actually reach out to us.
Okay. Yeah, so that's pointed to all the participants. A final question from one of the participants. Do you think microfinance is boosting financial inclusion? I think yes, definitely. There's no question about it. Question is, how can it get bigger in the coming days?
So I think microfinance...
Can microfinance become bigger, much more bigger than what it is?
Yeah. Well, I think microfinance will continue to scale up. The question is whether microfinance will scale up as microfinance institution or as a banking institution. Our belief is that microfinance potential to scale from where it is to a much larger scale is just simply because the penetration levels are still reasonably low. There has also been all kinds of microfinance institutions that have mushroomed. But with the tightening of credit bureaus, with a new kind of CRL, which basically asks everybody to sign up to be not actually being a third lender, etc., the responsibly code, etc., coming through, you have to have right kind of manpower, right kind of management skills, right kind of equity investors, and right kind of liabilities to be able to scale and build. So it's becoming more complex to do a microfinance institution than what it used to be. But it's also a great opportunity for scaling this up. I see microfinance going through a significant consolidation over the next few years. So there will be new loyalty programs, etc., that will be launched. And ultimately, I see microfinance becoming a technology platform of finance 5 to 7 years from now, maybe earlier.
Okay. So one of the questions, and I think it's more of for people who are like me, what's this? Because every time we hear this Kharif season coming, there's a lot of activities. Should direct transfers be enlarged? Should we do so and so to farmers? What is this about the Kharif season? Why is it so much of in the news?
See, basically, all seasons are important. These are actually important seasons because the harvest, most of it is because of your staple food. So farmers, what farmer produce need to actually go down. It defines. I think if you look at your wholesale price your inflation indexes, it will tell you why the government and everybody is so concerned about what is happening. So the kind of crop you have defines what kind of inflationary trends you will see. And the influence of some of the crops, Kharif crops, on the wholesale price index is quite significant. And that's why everybody is very concerned about it. Not so much of concern about the farmer, more about the concerns about the economics.
Okay.
I personally think that the government should actually seriously reconsider the basket that it has created for wholesale and retail price index. One should think about it.
Okay. Right. Vineet, thanks, Vineet, for all your thoughts. And like I said, we're going to wind up a little early, about 5 minutes to go, 5 or 7 minutes to go for the 4 o'clock announcement by FM. And I think everyone would be interested. And Vineet is much more interested than perhaps all of us. So we should let him go and get ready for this call. Vineet, once again, on behalf of EPS and all the participants out here, thank you very much for all your thoughts. And we really enjoyed talking about today's theme. And we hope that we will be able to get some more of your thoughts. Thank you very much, Vineet.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.